I'd like to welcome everyone to the One Retinoblastoma World 2020 virtual conference. Before we begin our program, I'm going to offer a brief land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that Ottawa, Canada, where our event was intended to occur today, is situated on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people, and we recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We also recognize the contributions that Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples have made, both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, and our province and country as a whole. As settlers, this recognition of the contributions and historic importance of Indigenous peoples must clearly and overtly be connected to our collective commitment to make the promise and the challenge of truth and reconciliation real in our communities, and in particular to bring justice for murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls across our country. We'd like to also acknowledge that many of you are joining us today from places near and far, and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of your lands. I'd now like to introduce Marissa Gonzalez for our welcoming remarks.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, bonjour to everybody around the world. Thank you so much for joining us for day 2 of the One Retinoblastoma World 2020 conference. We had an amazing day of programming yesterday with inspirational stories, wonderful information from medical professionals and survivors alike, families and parents. And I know that I really enjoyed our networking session. I was able to reconnect with some folks I hadn't seen in forever and some that I had been really wanting to meet. So meeting them virtually was really exciting. As Caitlin said, I'm Marissa Gonzalez. I'm the president of World Eye Cancer Hope USA, and I am a bilateral retinoblastoma survivor. This is my third One Retinoblastoma World Conference. And while I know we all wish we could be together in Ottawa, here we go. Got my Maple Leaf Canada flag. We are just thankful that you guys were able to join us today and yesterday. I'd like to start with a little bit of housekeeping. As Helen mentioned yesterday, we will be referring to all panelists without their medical professional titles by just first name or first and last name, because in this really unique setting, everybody is on a level playing field, despite how many years of school you've had. In order to really foster collaboration, our doctors, our parents, we are all learning from each other equally. I'd like to thank our main sponsors for the conference, the Sick Kids Foundation and the Eye Cancer Foundation, along with our other donors, Stretch Synergy, Ocular Prosthetics, KKPG, KS Creative and Consulting, and Kendra Scott Jewelry, which is a jewelry line here in the United States. So before I introduce our amazing, wonderful keynote speaker, I'd like to take a moment to recognize and honor a member of our retinoblastoma community who is no longer with us. In March of 2019, a good friend who many of you likely know, Jane Kama, from Eldoret, Kenya, tragically died in the Ethiopian Airlines plane crash, along with many other members of the African pediatric oncology world. Jane, along with our friends Bella, Grace, and so many other members of that community, were traveling home from the International Pediatric Oncology Society's African conference in Cairo, and were leaving from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and shortly after takeoff, the plane crashed. Jane was a wonderful light in child life and had dedicated her life to helping not only children with retinoblastoma, but also children with other pediatric diseases. So I'd like to please take a moment of silence and remember Jane. Thank you. I personally did get to know Jane at the One RB World Conference in Dublin and immediately fell in love with her. And someone else that really, really loved Jane and actually trained her in child life is our keynote speaker for today. So it is a privilege and an honor to introduce World Eye Cancer Hope's Child Life Specialist, Morgan Livingstone.